Well, you caught me rubbing lotion on my hands. You ever get that feeling on your fingertips because you've been working with so much fabric that it just feels like all of the moisture has left your fingertips and almost like your skin is peeling, but it's not? And I honestly feel like the only way I can describe this is I feel like Spider-Man, because every time I touch batting, especially, it just sticks to my fingertips. So I just grabbed some Utterly Smooth. I've heard this is great for ultra dry skin. I put some of this on my hands last night and they seem to be okay for about 24 hours. I put them on last night and I just started noticing a problem again. And ironically, it actually says clinically proven 24-hour moisturization. So there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday night. I am so excited to be here with you. And if you've been around my channel for a little bit, you'll know that maybe if you've been following the live stream schedule, that tonight I was going to be working on the Homebody mini pillow and quilt, and I do plan to do that, but it's not going to happen tonight, and let me tell you why. I bought a kit off of Etsy. I will not name the shop because I really don't want to give them bad press. This was a simple mistake that I'm sure everybody, it happens to people once in a while, and I don't even know if they know that this happened. It could have just been what they got. The kit included the pattern and all of the lovely fabrics to put this project together, and I've had it for a month or so now, so it's been waiting for me. Well, I opened it up today, this afternoon after I got off work, and I went about pressing and getting ready to cut all the fabrics to have it ready for tonight's live. And I opened up the inside of the pattern and it just wasn't making any sense to me. Turns out what happened, I don't know how this happened, but the outside pattern, the jacket for the pattern is for the appropriate pattern that I wanted to do, but the inside, the guts of the pattern were for a different pattern. It was similar, but it was not the mini quilt pattern. So my cutting instructions were not there. And by the time I figured out what was going on, I was already frazzled. I did hop over to Thimble Blossoms though. I bought the PDF. I took a look at the cutting instructions and I went, nope. The cutting instructions are not horrible, but I've just had a lot of stuff going on today. And so I didn't get a chance to cut the pieces. And we all know that spending 2 hours on a live stream just cutting fabric isn't fun for anyone. I want to make something. So tonight we're going to do something that I do off camera a lot. I don't think I've ever actually done on camera. So this is going to be an interesting live stream. I'm going to attempt to recreate a wristlet based on a finished project. And we'll give you all the details for that in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to say hi to a few people that I see in the chat. I see Natalie's here. Hello, Natalie. Susie Roy says, hi, Becca. Glad to join you tonight. I'm so happy you're here. Natalie Schumacher is here from Australia. Around to It is here from Alberta, Canada. That is Shirley. I got a few people in the DFW area. Those are, you guys, if you're in DFW, Ian is too. So you guys got to be like Ian's peeps. Speaking of Ian, please make sure to mark your calendars because Monday night he's going to do a Maker Monday, and this is going to be part of a new live series that he's going to be doing on Monday nights. I don't know that they'll be every week. They will definitely be at least once or twice a month, but maybe even every week. And this week we've been talking off camera about what he's doing, and it's going to be a blast. I'm not going to ruin the surprise. I'm just going to tell you it's a Maker Monday, and he's going to be working on a UFO, and he will share all the details on his live stream. If you want the deets for that, you need to go over to his channel and subscribe, and you'll see him live on Friday night. And then don't forget that Tracy is a moderator, but she doesn't do a live. Don't forget that Teresa and Tiffany are both moderators on this channel too. They have channels and they'd love if you check them out. And if you don't know and you're new around here, my name is Becca, so welcome. Let's see, who else do we got to say? Georgia McCroy said, got to say, I love the countdown music. I'm so happy. Ian said, it puts the lotion in the basket or on its fingertips. Either way is fine with me. We've got Teresa here from San Diego. Robin is here from Vermont. Susie Gabbard says, hi, I made it. Heather Grint says, me, I'm in the DFW area. All right, and Laura is here from Jacksonville, Florida. That's awesome. All right, I think that's all the chat that I'm going to read. Now, for those of you that might be new around here to the live streams, I just want to let you know I appreciate the chat. Please keep it coming. I do my best to try to read some of the chat messages as I go, but most of my live stream is just making stuff. I'm inviting you into my sewing room. I'm inviting you into my thought process, and I'm just verbalizing everything that I'm doing. It's more about the project, less about the chat. And so for that reason, I might miss some of your comments, but that's why we have moderators. My lovely mods are in the chat. They're monitoring for questions. And if there's content or questions or comments that need to get in front of me, they do have a way to reach out to me off camera so I can get your questions answered. So make sure to tag somebody that has their name in blue with a little blue wrench. And then that way we'll make sure you get noticed. Okay, what am I going to be doing tonight? Let's show you what I'm doing. So full disclosure, I have actually done this a couple of times as a practice run, but I want to walk you through my thought pattern. So this is my wristlet. I love this wristlet. It's great. However, let's talk about this for a moment. I bought this wristlet from an Etsy shop. I'm trying to get my things. There we go. I bought this wristlet from an Etsy shop. I did not make it. This was a fellow artisan that actually put this together, and I loved the fabric. I fell in love with this fabric. I had to have it. And so I bought it based off of the fabric, and she actually did a really nice job fussy cutting it, getting those strawberries right in the middle. I had to have this. There was actually a couple other things that were on this, but after a couple of years of carrying it, things have fallen off. On the zipper head here, there was this really pretty tassel that was kind of the corally color that you see represented. And this clipped into that tassel, but the tassel fell off almost immediately and I couldn't keep it there. And I was left with this strap that I couldn't seem to keep attached anyway. So I have ultimately ended up attaching it to the zipper head, which I don't love because part of me wants to be able to hold it on my wrist and unzip it at the same time. So for that reason, I don't feel like this is the right place for my strap. Couple other things that I don't love about this bag that I would love to change. The zipper is great, but I love the idea of putting zipper tabs on either side of the zippers just to make it feel like a more polished bag. And then I had been thinking about, what if I boxed these corners, just little tiny boxes, not anything big, but just a little tiny box just to give the bottom of the bag a little bit of body so that it would stand on its own. And then there are a couple other things that I was thinking I might do, but I don't want to do overkill. I just kind of want to see what I can do. There are a couple other things that I was thinking about. One of them was inside here. I don't want to show you in here too much because I do have my credit cards and stuff in here. Like, I use this bag. I was thinking about like a slip pocket that I could put my phone down in, so when I have my phone in the bag, it doesn't get damaged, scratched by my keys. But I tried that once, and the slip pocket didn't really have any body, and it was just like a flimsy piece of fabric that was hanging out in there. So for that reason, I think I'm going to save that for a future try to make. And what I'm going to do tonight is walk you through kind of my thought process for what I would do if I wanted to recreate this for me. Sound good? Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is pick out my materials. And because this is a project that I am actually going to make for my mother, everybody say hi, Mama Nancy, she's in the chat. I needed to make sure that she picked out the fabrics that worked for her. So we had a little bit of a conversation offline before the live stream, and these are the fabrics that she has chosen. This is going to be the exterior of the bag. This is going to be the interior of the bag, and this cream zipper, which matches beautifully, is going to be the zipper for the bag. bag. Now, I told you I've got a couple of elements I need to work with. I have the strap that I need to make. I have the exterior of the bag, but I also have the lining on the inside and I have the zipper tabs. And I want to do everything from these two fat quarters, which is going to be enough to probably make 2 bags, just FYI. I want to do everything out of only these 2 fabrics. And so what I think I'm going to do is focus this on my exterior, and this will be my zipper tab. So I'll have that little pop of purple up here. This will also be the lining. And then I'm undecided. We'll let Mom decide. She can put it in the chat which one of these 2 will be the actual strap. Part of me feels like maybe it should be this purple because it is in here, but I don't know if that's too much contrast for her. So we'll let her decide whether this is the strap or this is the strap. Now I don't have any hardware for me. Normally I would put a little tab on the side of the bag, attach a D-ring to it, and then put my lanyard, just like I have over here, on a swivel hook and attach that into the D-ring. The problem is I don't have a D-ring that is appropriately sized, so we're not going to do that. We're going to cheat. We're going to take the wrist strap. We're going to make the wrist strap, which you can't see because it's under my face. We're going to make the wrist strap, but we're going to attach it to the body of the bag. And I'm going to do this so that when the zipper is closed, it's at one end of the bag and the wristlet strap is at the other end of the bag. That way, no, I'm not. Nope, no, I'm not. I'm going to do this so that the wristlet strap is on the same side of the bag when the zipper is closed. That way, Mom can be holding it with her wrist like this, and then open it, get in there, get what she needs, and close it. So she can hold the bag with one hand while she's carrying it on her wrist. So that's the project that I'm going to be working on tonight. So we picked out our fabric. It looks like Mom wants the purple for the strap. Mom wants the purple for the lining, the purple for the tabs, and this is the exterior. So we're going to do exterior, zipper, and then all of the accent and lining fabric will be out of this purple. So we'll set that aside. I do have some batting for that as well. We'll set that aside too. Before we get started, we have to figure out what are the measurements going to be for this bag. And I kind of did a little bit of my homework beforehand, but I just want to show you what I did to make this. So I've got a little notebook out and I've got a pen handy so that I can take all of my lovely notes. The first thing that I'm going to do is measure the bag. So when it's finished, I'm not looking for exact measurements. I'm just looking for approximate. This bag, when it is closed, it's about 5 inches by 8 inches. So I'm going to size my fabric up 1 inch in both directions just so that I have a little bit of room to play with. And the exterior fabric, I'm actually going to go up 1.5 inches and I will quilt it and then I'll trim it down. So since this bag measures 5 inches by 8 inches, I'm going to cut 6 by 9 for the lining and 6.5 by 9.5. Look, I'm writing this down. Don't worry, somebody's going to ask me, will there be a pattern? Yes, I will put these instructions on my website, but you're going to have to give me a few days to do that. 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches for the exterior, and then I'm also going to do 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches of my batting. And my first step for this is going to be to quilt the outside of my bag. So let's get my fabric pressed and cut down so that we can get quilting. The Crafty Panda says, pretty fabric. I agree, it's very pretty. Ian, by the way, is entering some quilts in a quilt show in Texas, and we wish him the best of luck. Waiting for my iron to heat up. That's the beauty of a live stream, right? Like, I can't hide that my iron is not hot. I gotta wait. So I gotta figure a way to fill the airwaves while that's happening. I think while that's happening, I'm just gonna switch out for my bigger pressing mat just so I have a little bit more room to press this fabric. For those that are interested, this is the Martelli cutting mat, but on top of it, I use a Martelli press and cut mat. It's a wool pressing pad on one side, and it is a Martelli cutting mat on the other side. And I actually have an affiliate link for Martelli Notions if you're interested. If you do exclamation donate or exclamation affiliates, something like that, you can get that link, and you can it's good for anything on the Martelli website. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help me earn a small commission. Gotcha. Sherlock Sews says, don't forget to add for directional fabrics. Got you. Now, this one I feel like reads more as a toss to me, so I'm not going to worry too much about this being a directional fabric. But the exterior fabric is definitely directional, and that just means when I go to cut my fabric, I need to make sure that I'm cutting it in the right orientation, and I'm going to take you through all of that. Brenda Foley says, what color thread are you going to use? I'm going to use color number 6722. I don't know why I had to look at the bottom of my spool for that. That's my go-to white, if you will. It's a creamy white. That's my go-to for pretty much everything, unless I need to deal with some black. If I have to, I think honestly, the only time I change out my thread color is if I am matching my thread color to the binding that I'm putting on a quilt. I've seen people do that in the past, and it just adds awesome results. But when it comes to piecing, I usually just stick with the same color. Now, if I am quilting a small project, I might change it out depending on what I'm quilting. But honestly, 99% of the time I'm doing the quilting on my long arm. This, however, is way too, like I wouldn't take a 6-inch piece of fabric over to the long arm just to quilt it. That might be a little silly. This is something I can easily do right here in front of you. Look at all that steam coming up. Hi, Becca and Mom. What size zipper? So I think this is just a standard zipper. It's a YKK. And I think on the back it'll tell you the number, but I can't read it. 3C, it looks like. My eyes are getting so bad, and that font is so small. But what I'll do is hold it up, and maybe you can tell that's the size zipper that I'll be working with. It's just your standard generic zipper that you get at like Joann's. Corrine wants to know, Becca, what is that fabric line that you are using? It is from Sandy Gervais. See, there's part of the salvage there. And I don't know the name of the fabric line. But let's see if we have a salvage. Nope, no salvage there. And I do have one more cut, I feel like, around here that went with this. It is a Sandy Gervais line, and it is a fairly recent line, and none of the other salvages have the information on it. I'm so sorry. The fabric's pretty much gone. This is all I have left. Sherlock Sews says it's a number 3 zipper. Thank you. All right, so this is nice and starched. And we're going to just loosely fold it and set it over here. Yeah. It's so far away. I feel like the camera needs to be adjusted to come back a little bit more, but I'm not doing that now. Thank you. It's a number 3 dress skirt zipper. Yep, that's what I'm using. What she said. You can kind of see Adele in Spring. Yes, that's it. Thank you, Math Geek. That is the name of the fabric line. As soon as you said it, I remembered. I think I got this in a subscription box, if I'm being honest. I want to say it was in the pre-cut, one of the pre-cuts boxes. And I thought it was pretty, and I set it on the shelf, and obviously I did not do the project that they sent to me. So here it is, and I'm using it now. Oh, so far away. Sandy Gervais always has very pretty fabrics, doesn't she? What starch do you use? I am using Best Press. That's pretty much all I use for pressing and ironing needs. And I vary between 3 scents. Caribbean Breeze, Lavender, no, Fresh Linen, Lavender, and Citrus Grove. Those are my 3 go-to scents, but I have been known to use some unscented. Oh, Brenda, thank you so much for that tip. I appreciate it. Awesome. It was in the Creative Notions box. Got it. That's where I got it. I knew I got it in one of them. I just couldn't remember which one. All right. So these are the 2 pieces of fabric that I'm going to be working with. And now I'm kind of done with my pressing mat for now. So I'm just going to set this aside so that we can see things a little bit better. The first thing I'm going to do is cut my exterior fabric so that I can quilt it. Since this is a directional fabric, I want to make sure, and it's upside down for you, and I know that. Excuse me. My ruler is on the other side of the room. That's a problem. Oh boy. Look, I left on the left and came back on the right. It's a big circle. What? And there goes my zipper. All right. So because this fabric is directional, I want to make sure that I have got it oriented so that the bag, this is like the top of the bag, and these are the sides. I want the fabric to be right side up when I'm doing this. So what I'm going to do, I know I want to cut a 9.5 inch by 6.5 inch piece of fabric. I know that my bag is wider than it is taller. So the 9.5 inches has to be, the fabric has to be going up the short side. So I'm going to cut a very generous piece of fabric. It's actually measuring like 6 3/4 by 9 3/4. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to trim this down after we quilt it. So we're going to take that one. Then we're going to go and do another one. Now, I do want to point out as I'm cutting this fabric that if there was a design element that I absolutely wanted to in the center of my purse. Martha, thank you so much for that tip. I appreciate it. You guys are being so generous tonight. Wait, did I cut this right? I cut it just a little, right at 6.5. It'll be fine. What I was going to say is if there's a design element on the piece that I really want to be in the dead center of this, I could do it. But I really don't feel like there's one flower that stands out at me more than any of the others. So I've just made them look like little fields of flowers, and I think it's going to be great. But I have plenty here that if I wanted to go back in and do this again, which, I mean, I could take my ruler and find that piece that I wanted to be in the center and cut that out. So just heads up, this is a great project to fussy cut one of your bigger prints. Let me get this kind of folded back a little bit. This is a nice piece of fabric that will let me, oh, I appreciate you, Martha. This is a nice size piece of fabric that I can use for a future project, so I'm going to set that aside. Now I've got my 2 exterior pieces cut. They are much bigger than I need them to be. I'm going to cut my batting so that I can get my quilting done. This is probably the longest part of the entire project, if I'm being honest. I'm going to take my ruler, and for this one, I'm just going to cut it 6.5 by 9.5. So here's one. And then I will flip it around. Shirley says, directional fabric. I got it now. And now I've got my batting cut at 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. So as a reminder, your project materials, you're going to want 2 exterior pieces at 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. And you're going to want 2 pieces of batting 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. Now, my exterior pieces were generously cut, so they're a little bit bigger than that, but we're going to make that work. Hello, Vicky. I do think I'm going to take a second and just make that. Does that help a little bit? I feel like it does. Not as zoomed in. And that just makes it so I don't have to reach so far to get things in front of the camera. All right, that will go in my bin. This is extra scrap. We'll go down here for later. Yes, I'm throwing stuff on my floor. It's my room, my rules. You can't judge me. Not allowed. Okay, this is my lining fabric and others, and that is my zipper. I like to kind of keep things a little tidy when I'm working on a project like this, just because it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just a phase I'm going through, whatever. I feel like I had something important to say, and really, I just didn't. All right, so what I'm going to do next is take, am I using a pattern or winging it? Oh, girl, I am winging it. There is no pattern. There will be a pattern by the time I'm done with it, and it will be written by me. All right, so I'm going to smooth this out. Now I've got to decide how I want to quilt it, and this is the most difficult part of the entire process, to be honest. How do I want to quilt it? Well, I don't know. I think we're just going to do some traditional cross hatching. So to do that, I'm going to mark my fabric. In fact, I want it to, no, I don't. We're just going to mark my fabric. I'm going to find corner to corner on the diagonal, and I'm just going to draw a line. Just like that, and I'm using a water-soluble pen. And then I'm going to go over 1 full inch, and I'm going to mark a line 1 inch away from there, and I'm going to mark a line 1 inch away from there. Do you sense a pattern? And another one, another inch away from that one. And then another one, another inch away. And then another one way down here in the corner, which might end up getting cut off. Once I've done all of those, I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to put my 1 inch line right on top of that diagonal line that I drew in the very beginning, and I'm going to mark this in the other direction. Now I'm marking these going just one way for right now. I'm going to quilt these, and then I'll come back and I'll mark the lines going in the opposite direction. And what'll end up happening is I'll have kind of this little crosshatch design going across my exterior fabric. So let's go over to Le Sewing Machine, shall we? Where we do a little bit of quilting. So this is, oh, let me turn my blade, close my blade. That's not good. I'm going to turn my stitch length up to like a 3.5 because I want this to look a little bit more like quilted stuff, not tightly pieced. I'm going to start on the center line, and I'm just going to stitch directly on that line. If I go a little bit off in either direction, it's not the end of the world. The whole point of this process is just putting some quilting stitches into your project so the exterior bag is bound to your batting so that your wristlet has a little bit of body to it. I don't know why my machine does this. I am sure one of you probably know, but sometimes when I quilt with just batting underneath and I have a longer stitch length, when I pull my fabric or my project out from under the needle of my machine, it kind of runches up a little bit. Do you see how that's kind of happening right here? I fixed that by just taking my hand and smoothing it down and just kind of almost like setting the seam. And it works just fine. So if I see some bunching, I just smooth it out with my hands and I do the next row. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the lines going on the other side of that center line. FYI, I have been watching a lot of Lauren Mormino and Jess Oaklaroots, hence the bag making desire. Laura and Mormino has some new clear vinyl with scissors on them launching on the 15th that I'm really excited to get my hands on. I think that would make a really fun bag. In fact, I feel like I saw her sewing with it recently. All right, so now I've got my cross hatching done. I'm going to come back over to my projects mat, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did in this direction, but in this direction. Hello, June Hansen. Welcome to the live stream. And I'm just going to use my water-soluble marker to mark this. Because I am using a water-soluble marker, once I'm all done with my quilting, I will need to give it a really good dose of steam press or starch or misting it with fabric or just toss it in the wash. The nice thing about making a bag with quilting cotton like this, where everything is cotton and the same materials that you would really put in a quilt, is if something does spill on the bag, you just toss it in the wash. Oh, she released it on the 1st of August. No, I thought the clear vinyl was the 15th and the fabric was the 1st. Thought she had 2 releases this month. One on the 1st and one on the 15th. I feel like I emailed her about that and that's what she said. Because I was afraid I had missed the clear vinyl. And she was like, nope, it's coming on the 15th. Maybe I'm wrong. By the way, I'll go check out the store. My nails look pretty against fabric. Why do my nails always coordinate with the fabric? All right, now I'm going to stitch going in this other direction, and we're going to start from that center stitch just like we did before. Let's take you back over to the sewing machine. There's one row, and I just want to show you what I'm talking about with that bunching. Do you see how it kind of got bunched up? I'm just going to take my hand and run it the length of that stitch, and now it lays flat again. Smooth it out, sew it again. This is honestly, I feel like the longest part of the entire bag is quilting the exterior. But this is the piece that makes the bag feel fun. Talk about your pattern testing opportunities. I couldn't volunteer this time, but maybe in the future. Sure. So while I'm sewing this, I'll share a little bit about this new venture that I've kind of taken on. And I actually wrote about it on my blog for this month's Cotton Cuts blog post, which will be up on Monday if you want to read a little bit about it. But long story short, I feel like I've been usually relatively decent at doing quilt math. And when I say quilt math, you know what I mean. Figuring out how much yardage you need to do something, looking at a pattern, breaking it down into basic sizes, or thinking of a pattern that you've designed and breaking it down into basic sizes and then figuring out how big things need to be for everything to kind of sew together. But I feel like I'm okay with it. I really enjoy it. It's like a puzzle to me. I really like designing quilts. That's nice because I feel like I'm playing with quilts, but electronically or on pen and paper. The problem is I haven't had... Ooh, sorry. My fingers are getting tacky again. The problem is I really haven't had the confidence, if I'm being completely honest, to write a full pattern and become a pattern writer and sell them. Because I felt like I didn't have any special skill set or any special design that anyone out there couldn't already do or hasn't already done. So I didn't feel like I really had a place in that market until I made my Monica quilt. And my Monica quilt told me something different. I made a simple quilt out of 2 fabrics, squares the same size, just in alternating settings. And there was an overwhelming desire for a pattern for that quilt. And that was something that I leaned into and I made a pattern for and put on my website. And I'll just chat with you for a minute and take my face out of my face. That was an overwhelming ask that I heard from a lot of you. And it's not the first time I've heard it. When I make something, I hear people say, do you have a pattern for that? Do you have a pattern for that? And I always say, no, 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 I don't, because I didn't think I was good enough to write a pattern. Well, I wrote the Monica pattern and I put it on my website and I made it free. And so many of you downloaded it and I got a lot of positive feedback from it. So I thought, you know what? Maybe this is something I can do. Maybe I've been underestimating myself. So I've taken some of the skills that I've learned in my 9-to-5 job and I've kind of worked the quilting world into it. And I've decided to start writing a few patterns. I have one now called Farmer's Stars that is in testing. I designed the quilt I was inspired by another quilt that I have done in the past, one that multiple people have asked for patterns for, and I just haven't had to give to them. And I wrote the pattern and I sat on it for a long time. After the Monica quilt was launched and people accepted it as well as they did, I decided I wanted to test this one to make sure it was still good. So for that reason, I put a call out for testers to test this pattern that I wrote a while ago and wanted people to look at. And I thought maybe I'd get like 2 people. So I asked for 3. I was like, I'll just ask for 3. I got an overwhelming response for people that were willing to test my pattern. And that made me feel encouraged. So what I've done, I'm leaning into the pattern writing. I want to write more patterns, but I need people to test them because I want my patterns to be accurate and I want them to be comprehensible. I want them to be very easy to understand. And the best way I feel like I can do that is to have other people put those projects together with no video tutorial, no other aid, just the sheet of instructions in front of them. Select the fabric, cut the fabric, sew it together, and give me feedback as to what worked, what didn't work, what was clear, what wasn't clear. And then I can take that feedback and revise the pattern and launch it. The Farmer's Star pattern is in testing until August 20th, and I've got a handful of lovely ladies that are helping me test that pattern. After that point, I'll take a look at all the feedback that I got and I'll decide when it will be released or if it'll even be released. But I bring all of that up because I decided, since there was such an overwhelming response for the pattern testers, that I was going to launch a pattern testing group specifically for the patterns that I'm writing. So if at any point during this live, this replay in the next couple of weeks, you decide you would like to throw your hat in the ring and be considered for a testing opportunity for one of the patterns that I am asking folks to test, the best way you can do that is to go to the SEWBECCA Pattern Tester Facebook group. I don't have the link in front of me, but I did link it in the Facebook group for SEWBECCA and Friends. So that was a whole long story to talk about the pattern opportunity, and I hope I answered your question. Let's get back to the project. All right, so now I have got my first piece fully quilted. My hands are not icky anymore, at least the fingertips. I'm going to take the second piece of fabric and batting, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to smooth this out, make sure it's nice and flat. And I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a line on the diagonal going from corner to corner. And I see a few of you in the chat saying that you would like to be a pester. Oh, Ian, you are amazing. Thank you. I see a few of you in the chat saying that you would be willing to help and you're happy to toss your talents in, and I certainly appreciate that. The Farmer's Star pattern is already off and running. I don't need any more testers for that, but I do have a couple of designs that I am actively working on now, and sometime in the near future, I won't say when, but sometime in the near future, I will need pattern testers for those. So the best way that you can let me know that you're interested in being a pattern tester is to join that Facebook group. And my goal is to have this more of a formal process. When I have a pattern, I'll post a picture of what that quilt or project will look like, and then you can decide if that's something you would like to try testing or try doing, and then I'll pull testers based on folks that are giving me that feedback. I hope that makes sense. This is such a nerve. I'm so nervous about this too, because I don't know. I talk to Ian about this occasionally, but do you ever have imposter syndrome? Because that's what I feel like. I'm like, I don't know. Am I good enough to do this? I don't know. So we'll see how it goes. I felt like I didn't want to do the quilt math or write out the steps for patterns originally, and that's part of the reason why I shied away from it. But the reality is I'm doing the quilt math anyway, and I'm making the notes anyway. So if I just create a process to formalize those notes and put them in a digestible format that other people can read and understand, that's most of the work. All the time. Susie, you're funny. I don't do quilts, but I love making blocks because I like making items from the blocks. I would love testing blocks for testings. Good deal. That's a nice idea. I apparently am my face in my face. Let's get you to the camera view, shall we? This is what happens on a live stream when you run the tech and the sewing machine. You get yourself and a picture of yourself on a picture of yourself. The whole world is fake it till you make it. You know, Kathleen, I think that's the thing that I am starting to embrace. My daughter has the same problem. Well, I'll talk more about what my problem is, but she is the exact same way. For a very long time, I was crippled with the fear of not being able to do something well. And because I couldn't do something well, or I wasn't an expert at it, or it didn't come as quickly to me as I felt like it should, I wouldn't put the time or energy into doing something because I believed everybody had a talent. And that talent was something that you were born with. And I felt like I wasn't born with anything special. It wasn't until, I'm going to plug Jenny Doan again here, but I feel like she gives me so much life advice, and she doesn't even know it because she has no clue who I am. But it wasn't until Jenny Doan that I started to think about things a little bit differently. I heard her in one of her videos several years ago mention that, there I go again with that silly, Anyway, I remember many years ago, she had said something in one of her videos about how nobody was born a perfect quilter and that your talent was a result of lots of hard work and building a skill. And I heard her and I listened and I thought about it. And as my daughter started growing up, I heard myself giving her that same advice because she would get frustrated when she would pick up some crayons and make a picture and it didn't turn out the way she would want it to, or she didn't have this talent that she saw other people have, and all she was seeing is the product. She saw their talent, but she didn't see the years and hours of work that went into building that skill and honing that talent. So I started giving myself that same advice. I am not perfect with it at all, and I have to remind myself frequently of that, but the fake it till you make it is definitely something that I am trying to lean into a whole lot more. You got to start somewhere, so you might as well start with what you have. Inquisitive wants to know, where's your Jenny Doan cutout? Is it on one of your shelves? She's right here. She's hanging out with all the batiks. She had to move away from the boys because the boys in the band and Jenny were partying a little too much. So Jenny is down here hanging out with Chewbacca and New Kids on the Block. I need to bring out Flat Jenny. Jenny can help us. She'll help us sew today. Oh, Jenny's awesome. All right, let me just get this set up. There we go. I did meet Jenny one time when she was doing Jenny on the Road, and she came to Lancaster, I don't know how you say it if you're from there, but she came to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. She was the nicest lady I have ever met. Her husband was nothing but smiles. The whole team was just awesome. And I still want to go to Missouri Star one day. With a side trip over to quilting as my therapy. Hi, Terry. How are you? Road trip, Mama. They have a yarn store now. All right, let me get this other side. I'm almost done quilting this. Oh, Maureen, you're so kind. She said you're a rock star to other people. We never see ourselves the way other people do, though, right? And that can go both ways. Sometimes we think we're all that in a bag of chips, and other people don't see us that way. But it also goes the way, in my case, it's usually I don't see myself as good as other people may see me. So I think I suffer from a lack of self-esteem most times. All right, there we go. This is all quilted. So we're going to go back over to the project mat where Jenny is going to help us out. I need to square these up. Pam says, let's caravan together for an MSQC trip. Hey, listen, I am down. John and Kelly said Lancaster is Laycanster. Laycanster. Okay, sure. I'll probably not get it. All right, so here's my thing. I can't use this 45-degree line on my ruler to square this up because that 45-degree line is not actually accurate. This is not a 45-degree. It's not even a 60-degree when I look at this. Is it a 60-degree? I don't know. No, it's not. It doesn't really matter if I do it this way, but I want to try to make it right. I want my quilting to start in the corners of each corner. I want those corners to be in the corners. Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself right? Because I want all the quilting to kind of come together on the side of the bag. Oh, you know what? She didn't do it. We're not going to do it. I'm going to square up my quilted panels to 6 by 9 because that's the size that my lining is. So I'm going to start by just kind of making a nice clean edge here. And then up here, like that. And then I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to find the 9-inch mark and the 6-inch mark on my ruler. I'm going to line up the 9-inch on the left and the 6-inch on the bottom, and then I'm going to clean up the right and the top. There's the right. And there's the top. That's one panel. Let's get the second one. Same thing, same verse, same as the first. A little bit different and a whole lot worse. No, not worse. Hopefully better. Emily is here. You need to start the tour bus in Florida. Hey, somebody organize a road trip on one of those quilting tour buses. I'm down, but I want like 2 seats. Like, I don't want to sit next to anybody because I want to spread out. I'll talk and hang out, but I'm reserving 2 seats on that bus. All right. When the Auntie L Handmade says we need 2 buses, one starting from the southeast and one from the southwest, and maybe one from the northeast, and maybe one from the northwest. Like, what if we came from all 4 corners and then we just stopped along the way and picked people up? So the further you were away, the longer you had on the bus, and we just like oh, that would be so cool. Somebody make that happen. Make it happen. All right, here we have Pat Quarter Bingo on the bus. You guys are working it all out. See, we need one of you to plan the event. Just tell me when and where, and I'll show up. But not next month. Like, make it in 2023. All right, so now we've got our exterior pieces all nice and quilted and trimmed, and I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to set this aside. And next thing I'm going to do is look at my bag. So I know the inside of this, I want my lining pieces to be the same size as my exterior pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut away 2 6x9" pieces. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm just going to cut a 6-inch strip of fabric going with the fabric. That's going to leave all this extra for everything else. Ryan sets up tour buses all the time. Sweet. I seriously am game. The wheels on the QC bus go round and round. That's a mouthful. All right, this is my fold over here. Okay, I need to get a nice clean edge. So I'm going to clean this up a bit. Hi, Jamie. Haven't seen you in a minute. How you doing? Feel like with summer winding down, folks are starting to come back from all their vacations. Pat. Pat's been gone all summer, except for 1 week. All right, now we're going to cut 9 inches. So this is going to be, I'm going to try to repurpose as much of this as I can. I want my scrap pieces to be big, because if they're big, then I can reuse them in my current bag. And I feel like I might have a piece that's been cut off of this strip that's big enough to be my zipper tab. So this is just a scrap piece, but this might be big enough for my zipper tab. I'm going to measure. Nope, it's not. I lied. So I'm going to put that in my scrap pile. Okay, here are my lining pieces. I don't have anything else I'm going to do with the lining at this point. So I'm going to set them in the pile with my zipper and my exterior pieces. So now what I need to do next is prepare my zipper tabs and my handle strap. So I like the size of this handle strap. It's not as thick as the ones that I've been making, but it's also not flimsy and small. And when I measure it, it is coming up at a 1/2 inch wide, just a little over a 1/2 inch wide. Now I know the way I'm going to make a strap is going to be to take the fabric, and I'll show you on this one, take the fabric, fold it into the middle, crease it, and then I'm going to fold either side into the middle, and that's going to give me my strap, because I'll have it folded in like that. Then I'm going to put a piece of batting in here and fold it all in on itself and stitch down either side. So I basically need a piece of fabric that is 4 times as big as the width of my strap. So if I want my strap to be a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch times 4 is 2 inches. So we're going to go with that measurement. I also want to know how big I want my strap to be. I like the size of this wrist strap, how big the opening is. So the opening measures, I'm just going to put this on, it's about 6 inches. So I've got 6 inches on top, 6 inches on bottom, which is 12. And I've got this over here for where I'm attaching it and sewing it in, and that's about 1 inch. So this appears to be a 14-inch piece of fabric that's doubled over on itself. So I'm going to go with 14 inches, because if that's too big, I can always trim it down. So I'm going to do a 14-inch, I'm sorry, a 2-inch strip of fabric. That's the entire width of this fat quarter. Just like that. And then I'm going to get my pressing pad back out. Pat Strawhouse said, I'll be home for 2 weeks in August, then off again until October 4th. Long, cold winter here. Yeah, I'd be getting out and enjoying the nice weather while I could too. I'm folding this entire strip of fabric along that long edge right down the center, all the way down. I'm not worrying about whether or not the strip of fabric is the right length. I will trim it down after I quilt it and fold it and test it. So now I've got a slight crease down the middle of the fabric. I'm going to shut the door because my daughter's making popcorn. And then I'm going to fold in the raw edges to that center crease that I just made. In fact, if I'm being completely honest, I'm folding it just shy of that center crease. My goal here is just to hide my raw edges so they don't fray. It'll give it a nice finished edge. And I'm just finger creasing this down just so it kind of lays going in the direction I want it to go in. My iron shut off, so we're going to turn it back on. I'm going to flip this over. Do you have something under your pressing mat? I ruined my mat ironing on top. Yeah, this is supposed to be glued, but I ruined it. This is a vapor barrier, and then this is another pressing mat. This is the press and cut mat from Martelli, and I actually iron like this all the time. It's meant to be pressed on one side and cut on the other. But that extra couple of layers between the wool pressing mat and this pressing or cutting surface actually helps protect my cutting mat. I will say occasionally when I do a heavy amount of pressing while I'm sitting here, I'll start to get my mat bubble up a little bit. But if I just put something heavy on it while it's cooling down, it goes right back into place. Now that I've got both of these raw edges folded into the middle, I'm just going to come back down and I'm going to kind of do this number where I'm pushing everything over towards the side. Feel like maybe I should have made this a 2.5 inch strip. Feel like it might be a little too thin for me, but we'll keep it. Okay, there we go, just like that. Now I want this to lay nice and flat for the next part, so this is where the heat's going to come in. Going to press this the entire length. You guys think about Teresa and Tiffany. I know I haven't heard from Teresa in a while, and I think I know that she's going through some stuff, so keep her in your thoughts. And I know Tiffany's been dealing with migraines all day, so keep her in your thoughts too. Hello, Mimsy. All right. Now that I have this nice long strip, this is my chance to compare it to this strip, this strap, and decide if I like it or don't like it. And I think I like it. It's a little narrow, but I think it'll work. Oh no, Buffy said it was a bad day at work, so I'm just so happy to be here listening to Becca and relaxing with no thoughts of tomorrow. I can feel you on that one. All right, the next step that I'm going to do is find a piece of batting that will go into that strip. So I'm just going to totally just like cut, like literally not even measuring, just cutting a big, way bigger than, like grossly over cutting a piece of batting so that I can cut it down. I know that this is a 1/2 inch wide, and what I've actually figured out is when I cut my strip to put into here, it's actually better to cut it just under what I need it to measure at. So I'm going to put this on the diagonal because that'll give me the well, why am I using this surface? I got a cutting mat right there. What am I doing? I'm going to lay this out, and I'm going to get a nice straight edge on this side all the way up. Nice straight edge. like that. And then I'm going to flip it over. Hi, Moldy Lasagna. And instead of being directly at a 1/2 of an inch, I'm going to do like 3/8 of an inch. That'll just make the batting a little bit smaller so that when I put it into my strap, I've got room to accommodate the extra bulkiness that I'm putting in, and the strap can still lay nice and flat. That worked. Don't need all of that. Hello, Nancy. Now I'm going to open this back up, and I'm going to pull away one of those raw edges that's folded into the middle. I'm going to take my strip of batting, and I'm going to kind of lay it in there so it's pushed right up against that seam. And I'm going to do that all the way down. This is a little finicky, but it adds body to your strap, and I feel like it helps make the wristlet feel a little bit more polished. All the way down the strap. Okay. Now I'm going to fold it back up, just like it was. Now I've got a little bit of cushion in there, a little bit of cushion for the push-in. Yes, I did just say that. You're welcome. And I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch right along the edge of both sides of this strap. Elizabeth says, I always find straps challenging. They can be, especially when you're working with really thin straps like this. I feel like when they're a little bit bigger, they're a little easier to manage. And the other thing that I feel like I find, because apparently I'm just full of all sorts of pro tips for you tonight, is if I stitch down the folded side first, that makes my strap look a little bit more polished. So I fold the edge with this opening first, and then, I sew the edge with the folded opening first, and then I go sew along the fold. Does that make sense? Like, I sew it closed first, and then I do the stitching on the other side. I don't know if that is just a placebo effect that works for me and makes straps easier, or if it really does help people. That's what I do. I am still using a 3.5 millimeter stitch length. I don't need really tight piecing on this. I want the quilting on my strap to match the quilting that's on the bag. But after this is done, we're going to definitely kick it back to a 2.0 stitch length, because we'll want all of the pieces of the bag put together with a nice tight stitch. There we go, just like that. Love those nails. Odie, 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 odie. Okay, I don't know what that's for, but you're welcome. Next step is to stitch down the folded side. And this one goes a lot faster. Boom. Bam. Lori said that's how she does her straps too. Awesome. Straps are so fun on the Juki. They kind of are, right? Now my strap does want to twist and turn on me, and that's going to be okay. If I want to give it some heat and press it, I can make it lay a little bit flatter, but I'm not overly worried about it right now. My strap is done, my panels are done, my lining is done, so the next step is to make my zipper tab. And I have experimented with many sizes of zipper tabs lately, and I feel like the best size is like a 3-inch by 5-inch piece of fabric, and that's going to give me both of my tabs. So I'm going to cut this entire chunk off at 3 inches. Pat says adding a few dabs of glue to the batting makes it more manageable. Awesome. You said body, and all I can hear in my head is body, yaddy. Oh, I get it. You're weird. and I love it. All right. And now I'm going to measure off a 5-inch piece. Now I could have made this 3 inches by 2.5 inches and done that twice, but here's where that becomes a problem. I don't easily know by looking at my piece of fabric what is the side that I need to fold in, and I spend a lot of time going, wait, was this the side I'm folding in, or should it have been this side? Let me save you some confusion. If you cut whatever your zipper tab is wide enough so that you can get 2 of them out of there, you know you're always working with the long edge. So I'm going to do with this, just like I did with my strap, I'm going to fold it in half along the length, then open it up and fold each of those long edges into the middle. Just like that. And then I'm going to fold it in half again. And this is a nice finished piece of fabric that I can use for the zipper, for both ends of the zipper. I do want to press this so it's nice and flat. So I'm going to pull my little piece of fabric back out. I'm going to pull over my hot iron. They're going to have a nice hot date. You're welcome. And I'm going to leave it just like that. Now, we are almost ready to play with the zipper. And I feel like that's the piece that most people are going to be like, no! Because zippers intimidate a lot of people, myself included, half of the time. Most of the time. 98% of the time. But in projects like this, where it's just a flat sew and it's just a straight line, the most difficult part of working with a zipper is making sure that you don't go over the zipper head. The foot that I have on my Juki, I don't have a problem with when I sew zippers on this way. So I'm not going to change my zipper foot. But you may not be so lucky and you might need a zipper foot. So if that's something that you need to make this work, by all means, take a minute, change out your presser foot. I'll even give you a gruesome shot of me cleaning this and getting all the black metal bits off of my thing. Look at that. Look at that. Do you guys get that on your, like I get that all the time on this machine. Somebody want to tell me what that is and how I can avoid it? Or is that just like owning a mechanical machine? Is that what you get for owning a workhorse? Look, I'm trying to show you. Look at all that. That was white. Anyway. Do have a scrap thread there. Let's pull that off. So my zipper, let's go back to the overhead shot and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Bop, bop. I know that my bag, I'm just going to take a piece of lining, is 9 inches wide. I want my zipper to be 9 inches wide, but I want my purple fabric to be on either sides of the zipper so that I have this really pretty little accent kind of setting it apart. And just thinking through, will I still see? Yeah, I will. I also don't want to sew on the metal piece here or the metal pieces up here. So what I like to do is cut away this part of my zipper. Sounds like a question for T. Ancom. Yeah, he's got a lot going on. I'll wait. Now that I have that cut edge, I'm going to line it up with a 9-inch mark on my mat. And then over here, I'm going to cut this zipper tape. But I want to make sure that my zipper head is between where I'm going to cut here and where I cut down here. It's oil from the top when it goes up. Got it, Pam. Thank you. Elizabeth said maybe it's from over oiling the holes above the needle. I don't know. I don't oil them at all that often. So I am doing a quick basting stitch on the open end of the zipper, just right up against the edge where I cut. And that's just going to hold this closed and make it a little bit more manageable for me. Totally not necessary, but there you go. Got it, Brenda. Thank you. She said, I think you over-oiled it. I watched a video on Juki Junkies showing that there is a felt piece that just needs to stay damp, not soak. Ah, I bet if I take it in, somebody could fix that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to put one end inside this zipper tape. I'm going to push that cut end all the way up towards the fold. I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm going to edge stitch right against this folded section. And because this is a polyester zipper, a nylon zipper, I think, I can stitch on the zipper teeth. If this was a metal zipper, I probably wouldn't want to do that. And I am using a 2.0 stitch length on this. I went back to my normal piecing stitch length. Once that's done, I'm going to cut, shoop, like that. And I'm going to take this other piece down here and I'm going to do the same exact thing. You'll notice my zipper tape was gratuitously big. I didn't need all of that, but I have it and I used it, some of it. Same thing, other side. Now when we go back to the overhead, open this up. Just going to trim this approximately the right size. The reality is these bits are going to be worked into the seam allowance, so you don't need them to be exactly the same size as your zipper tape. But now we do need to install our zipper onto our fabric. And the way we're going to go about doing that S. Taylor wants to see all of your project. We can't see much. I don't have much to show you. I just have this. Like, this is all I got. There is no project that I'm doing. So what am I missing that you need to see? I'm not sure what I'm missing here. It's not put together yet. All right, while I'm waiting for an answer there, I'm going to assemble the bag. So the first thing that I need to do is get my, here, let's see. Let me see. Oops. Is this better or worse? It's worse for me, actually, so I'll just put it back. We're just going to put it back. It's worse for me. Because I got to go way over to the end. We can see the project fine. Okay, good. So remember, this is directional fabric. This is the bottom, this is the top, and I need to make sure I remember that when I put it together. For the next step, I'm going to need one exterior and one lining piece. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to lay this out. I'm turning it sideways because this is how I'm going to sew it. I want the top of my fabric on the right and the bottom of my fabric on the left. And then I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to lay this face down on top of that exterior piece of fabric. And because I made my zipper the same length as my fabric, it should go the entire gamut of this. It should go the entire side. I'm going to want some wonder clips for this to hold everything in place. Let me grab some. I'm just going to grab a handful. And I'm going to clip it right here all the way down. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You could grab some wonder tape, a couple of dots of glue could help with this. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about securing the zipper to your project. You could even do a basting stitch and then come back and do something later. I like to live dangerously. So I have my exterior fabric right side up, my zipper face down at the top edge of my fabric, clipped into place. Now I'm going to take my lining fabric and lay it right side down. And if this is directional, I want the top to be up by the zipper. We're going to lay it right side down and make sure that my raw edges are all approximately lined up. And then everywhere where I have a wonder clip, I'm just going to open it, tuck my lining fabric into it, and move on. Now I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and with a 2.0 stitch length, about a scant of 1/4 of an inch, maybe less, maybe 1/8 of an inch would be good. I'm going to stitch all the way down this edge, but I want to pay careful attention to where the head of the zipper is, because depending on the presser foot that you have, when you get to wherever your presser foot is, it could be a little cumbersome for you to navigate around. So what I like to do is I stitch a ways down, and when I get close enough or far enough down that my zipper head can go up to the top, before I even get to the zipper head, I will stop, I'll lift this open, I'll grab the zipper head and I'll put it up towards the top, close it back up, and stitch it again. So I like to start with this kind of almost all the way down to the bottom, like about 3/4 of the way down. I'm going to stitch a few inches down, stop, pull the zipper head up, and then continue on. And that way I don't have that weird squiggly line in my stitching where I hit the area where the zipper head was. Does that make sense? Here we go. I'm a few inches down. I'm going to stop. I'm going to lift my presser foot all the way up to the highest setting, and I'm pulling my head all the way up to the top. So if I were to turn this around so you could see, I just had it, you can see right there, the zipper head is at the top of the seam now. And now I'm going to just gently put everything back where it was, put my presser foot back down, and continue sewing. Now that we have all of that together, we're going to open this back up. And this is where we start to have lots of fun. I'm going to finger crease. I'm going to fold the lining back away from the zipper and finger press that down so I have that nice crease. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, to the exterior. I'm going to finger press this down so we've got that really nice crease. And then I'm going to kind of shake things out and make sure that my lining and my exterior fabric are all about the same size, give or take a couple of threads. And then I'm going to take this back to my sewing machine one more time. I'm going to put this on a 3.5 stitch length, and I'm going to stitch literally right next to the fold by the zipper up at the top. And this is just going to give a little bit of structure to our bag, and it's going to keep our fabric away from the zipper teeth. So when we go to use our zipper, the fabric and the bulk isn't in the way. We can open this zipper freely back and forth. Go ahead, ask me how I know to do this. I may have made all of my bags when I first started quilting without this top stitch. And I can't tell you how many times that lining fabric would get bunched up in the head of my zipper. True story. All right, our next step is just to repeat that same process, but for the other side. This time we're lining everything up to this top edge of the zipper. So I'm going to turn it 90 degrees so that this is lined up over here. And now I'm going to take my next panel, and again, this is directional. So I want the top of the fabric to be along the edge of the zipper. I like to lay it out this way to make sure that it's both of the tops are coming towards the zipper. And then I put it over on top, gently lift and flip it over, and I make sure that the raw edge of my zipper tape and the raw edge of that second exterior panel are lined up. I clip it in place. If I got to pick it up and shake it out a little bit, that's not a problem. Susie Roy says, I'm loving this little project. Thanks tons, Becca. You're welcome. So just like that. And then I'm going to pick up my lining and I'm going to lay it face down with the top raw edge. Remember, if it's directional, the top of the fabric should always be along the zipper. But here's the here's the fun thing. If it's lining, nobody's going to know if it's wrong because it's inside the bag. And I've clipped everything together. We're going to go back to the sewing machine, turn our stitch length back to a 2.0, and just like we did before, stitch all the way down. We're going to get a few inches down, stop, reach in, and really push that zipper head all the way up to the other end. Get everything back in place, put your presser foot down and go. There we go. So Terry says you could also make your zipper a little shorter and keep it out of the seam allowance. Yes, you could. There are a number of ways that you can do this, but this is just the way I'm doing it tonight. You're welcome to modify this to be whatever works for you. Just like I did before, I'm going to scratch all of this fabric away from the zipper and give that a nice finger press so it's laying nice and flat on both sides of the fabric, and then take it back to the sewing machine. And with that 3.5 millimeter stitch length, I'm going to stitch all along. Let me get these clips out of the way. I'm going to stitch all along that fold right next to that zipper, all the way down. Just like that. Thank you, So Terry. Hello, Donna Forrest. Now we've got basically our bag put together. All of the pieces are sewn. It's all one piece, and we just got to add the bag structure to it. And the way we're going to do that is to change the orientation of the fabric. So right now we've got exterior and interior stacked over here, kind of like quilt sandwiches, right? But we don't want that for when we put the bag together. So we're going to shake things out. And I like to, well, I don't like to, this is what I do. I line up the exterior so that it's on top of one another, and I take the time to make sure that my raw edges are all lined up, and I clip it in place. Just a few on each side should be fine. I do take the time, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is what I'm going to do. I do take the time to take my finger and push the zipper so it's dipping into the lining fabric. Just something I do. Maybe there's a better way to do it that'll give you a better look, but this is what I've done. I'm going to clip along the edges here. You can't use too many of these clips. I want my bag to kind of keep its shape. Now you're probably thinking, wait, back on the strap. I know, we'll get to it in just a second. Good night, Nancy. Have a good sleep. When I get over to the lining, I do notice that some of my lining fabric is a little off right here. Not going to worry about it. It's going to be okay. We're just going to scratch it so everything's laying nice and flat. I'm going to clip all around these edges. Just like that. Just like that. Now, I have to remember, this is where the zipper is going to be when it's closed. This is going to be where it is when it's closed. So here's my next decision that I have to make. How big do I want my wrist strap to be? I know I need to leave a little bit, about an inch when it's folded, off the side just to accommodate it being sewn into the bag, maybe half an inch. So this is my super technical way of seeing if the wrist strap is going to work for me. I fold it. I put my wrist in it. And I kind of grab where I want that seam to be. And I'm checking to make sure that I have plenty of room for this to slide on and off my wrist. That's how I do all of them. And then over here, I cut away the excess like that. Now, once I have this piece ready to be assembled to my bag, I fold it in half so that I have my raw edges lined up over here. And I'm going to tuck this inside the bag on the exterior side so that the folded edge is inside the layers, in between those two lovely exterior pieces. I am aiming this about a ½ inch down from the zipper, but placement is really up to you. You can put it in the middle, you can put it right up against the zipper, wherever you want. You can put it at an angle, you can make it straight. This is entirely your choice. But once I have those pieces together, you can see this is where my handle wristlet piece is. I'm going to take a clip and I'm going to hold all of that together because I don't want that to move. And I do like to use a nice big clip because it'll hold everything, but this also this holds, or this visually indicates where my wrist strap is, because when I get to this part of the sewing, when I go around the exterior of the bag, I go over the sucker like 5 times because I don't want my stitches to pop when I'm swinging the bag around from side to side. So to sew this together, we're going to start here, back stitch, come over to the corner, all the way down the side, all the way across the bottom, all the way across the top, back over here and back stitch. We're going to leave between these two clips open because that's how we're going to turn the bag. And this is where my wristlet strap is. So I'm going to go over this like 25,000 times. Maybe not that much. That might be an exaggeration. Katie said that makes it very couture. Make sure to put your stitch length back at a 2.0 if you're doing this. I do sew off of the edge, cut my thread, and then I come back and sew again. Now, when I get to the point where that zipper tape is up here, it is going to be pretty bulky. So just go slow and you'll be okay. If you take the time to make your zipper a little bit smaller, I go back over it too. Maybe I shouldn't, but my Juki can handle it. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, if you take the time to make your zipper tape kind of fill in the gap, but don't take your zipper all the way over to the edge, you can get a little bit cleaner turn, I think. I just haven't messed with that yet, and this has worked just fine for me, so I don't know that I could properly explain how to do it if I haven't done it well myself. I am sewing this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but it doesn't matter what your seam allowance is. It just matters that you are getting all of the bits tucked inside the bag. I am approaching my wristlet strap. That sucker does not want, I do not want it to come loose. When will you box corners? Brenda Foley wants to know. Right now. Ha! So now that all my layers are sewn together, it's time to box the corners. And I do them a little bit differently. I used to do them a different way, and that didn't work. I'm looking for a small ruler. 1 second, this one will work. I used to do them a different way. I used to do that thing where you would pick it up and you'd fuss about and you'd fold it and you'd get it under the machine. And you know what I found? When I did it that way, my bag wasn't symmetrical. This way, my bag is usually symmetrical. I want a very small boxed corner. I tried this with a 1.5 inch, and let me tell you, that was much too big. So I'm gonna go very small. I think I'm only gonna do like a 1/2 inch of a boxed corner. So, or maybe 1 inch. I think we'll go with 1 inch. Yeah. I'm going to, so that you can see it, I'm going to take my, can you use a twin needle on your Juki? I have no idea. But I appreciate the question. I have no idea. I'm going to take my little ruler. I'm going to line up the 1-inch edge on the left edge of my fabric and the 1-inch marker on the bottom edge of the fabric, and I'm just going to draw a line around both of those so that I have something that looks like that. I'm going to do that to all 4 corners of my bag, 1 inch away from the edge of the fabric on all 4 corners. This seems like a really tiny thing and maybe the not worth it, and I honestly don't know how it's going to look when it's done, but Mom will love it no matter what. Now I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and I'm just going to cut on that blue line that I drew with just a normal ink pen. What? There we go. So now I've got all these little 4 corners folded out. Oh, wide opening on the needle plate? No, it's just, mine just has a single hole. So now what I'm going to do is come in here and separate the 2 layers. And that indent where this square is that I just cut out, that's going to be the corner where I line everything up. I'm going to pull it out in a way. I like to press my seam open when I'm doing this, or you can do it to either side. Either way works. I'm going to clip it. I want to make sure that the seams are on top of each other and the raw edges from that cut are nice and lined up. I'm going to do that to all 4 corners. Ah! It ran away. Okay, now I'm going to come down here. You can see when I do that, I'm starting to get a little bit of shape to the bag. Let me show you again what I'm doing. I'm coming in, I'm grabbing either side, and I'm lining up the raw edges of both of those cuts that I made from either side, and I'm getting the seam to nest, just like I would with a quilt block. For the exterior, because of all the bulk, I just press that open. So Terry said, Mama is gonna love it. I hope so. If you have a bag label, you could put the label in the side right next to where, like one of those folded tags, you could put that right in the side next to your handle so it's sticking off the side of the bag. Now I'm going to clip this. Now all 4 of my boxed corners are cut and clipped. You know what time it is. We're going to move this back over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to stitch right along that edge on all 4 of these corners. Make sure you're doing this with a nice tight stitch because you don't want anything slipping through the corner of your bag into the inside between the lining and the pocket or the exterior. If you want to make it extra secure, you can always back stitch over that seam to make sure everything stays nice and tight. Honestly, that's what I do usually. Haven't done it with this bag. Maybe I should. At least with the lining we'll do it because I don't want anything to slip out. I'm just doing an extra stitching line right on top of the one I did before, just to keep this closed. Jean Truelove says it all the time. If 1 stitch is good, 2 is better. Okay, there we go. Bye, Vicki. All right, so now our bag is all done, except we have to berth it or turn it out and then just close the hole for the lining. So we've got that big gap that we left. We're going to reach our hand in. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, before you sewed, you're going to hate me at this point because you might have to rip some stitches to get in here if you can't feel it. If you did not make sure that your zipper was open before you sewed all your layers together, definitely make sure you do that, because otherwise you'll have to sit here and finesse and try and move it over. You have to reach through the hole and then through the zipper into this part of the bag to turn it out. So when you're sewing your pieces together before you box the corners and you sew the perimeter of the bag, just take a second to make sure that the zipper is pushed over enough so that you can get your hand through it. I open mine all the way up, just about. We're gonna push the bag out. And this is where we learn if we did a good job or a poor job. Like, actually, let me come back. Hold on. Before I turn this out, I'm going to grab my snips. We're going to trim our seam allowances. I forgot this is an important thing. This bulk where my zipper is and my zipper tab, I've got a lot of bulk there, and that's going to be really hard for me to make it look nice and flush. So I'm just going to come in and trim some of this bulk away with a pair of scissors on both sides of the zipper. That's just going to let me turn this out a little bit better. I'm not getting it right on the stitch, but I am getting it close. I'm kind of curving it a little. And now I'm going to flip this out. Now I will put my hand all the way into the bag and we'll act like it's a puppet. Hello, people. I'm going to poke out my corners first and the bottom. And I'm going to feel a little nervous because I don't know if this bag shape is going to be what I want, but I am poking those corners out. I'm going to poke my corners out of my lining too. I do have this lovely poker sticker. That's the official technical term, poker sticker. And I'm going to come in and work this zipper a little bit. I'm going to close the zipper teeth just slightly. I'll put this inside the lining and I'm going to use the little stick to just nudge that tab right up. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Do you see that right there? Right here. That's great. That's great. That's what I want. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to turn it most of the way with my hands. Then I'm going to take this stick and I'm going to go right into this little dimple where the zipper is coming into the bag. And I'm going to use the blunt end of this poker sticker thingamabob, and I'm going to try to poke it so that that zipper tab is kind of covering the end of the zipper tape and we're pushing it out a little bit. I am using quite a bit of force here, but I have a blunt tool that's not going to poke my fabric. But do you see how I have this nice zipper top, this fabric? It's kind of hard to see. Maybe you can see a little bit better there. This to me is a much nicer finished edge than the other way that you put a zipper on the other bag, which I'll show you in just a minute. Now the last step of this is to fold my seam in on itself for the lining, clip it in place just so it stays nice-ish. Now, if you are a perfectionist and you want this to be hand closed so you don't see the seam, please be my guest. I am not. So this is how I close my bag. I put it in the machine. I backstitch at the beginning and I sew the whole edge of the bottom of my bag right up against the edge of the seam. And that's it. That's what I did. And then I'm going to open her up. I'm going to put the lining down inside the bag, and I'm using my fingers to separate the corners of the inside of the bag and kind of get the lining to lay where it should be. And that is, wow, really super cute. I think if I had to do this over again, I might make it 7 inches tall just to accommodate for, oh man, that's super cute. No, I don't think so. I love the shape. Look at that. How darling is this? Now, I am going to point out I have these blue lines on the bag. And that's because I used a water-soluble marker to make all of my quilting marks. And that's easily taken care of by just giving it a really good bit of moisture. I could toss this in the wash and it would be gone in a breeze, or I could mist it with some steam, or just spray some Best Press on it. This is what I do. Look, the marks are gone. It is a little moist. Moist. It's a little damp. Man, where is my head today? It is a little damp. I don't need it right now. If I wanted to, I'm just very lightly misting this. I'm going to let the moisture sit on the bag, and I'm going to let this air dry from it, and that's going to make sure that all the marks are completely gone. I could, if I wanted to, apply some heat to this right now, and that would make this really, like, it'd make it good. But what I found when I'm doing that with Best Press or steam or whatever, if I apply heat to this too quickly, some of those markings can come back slightly, which means I need to get that part of my project damp again and then apply more heat, and it becomes a cycle. But if I spritz it and I let it sit overnight, they're gone forever. So that's what I do. There you go, Mom. What do you think? Did I do good? Did I do good? I hope so. I hope you like it. This is definitely, this is great. Like, look how super cute it is. So Terry says, what marker do you use and which air erase marker do you use? I will show them both to you. Perhaps. Here they are. Let me give you the close-up view of that. And this. So this is my air-soluble marker. This is purple ink, and it is a Choco Ace pen. It says ZZADGER. Honestly, I got this as a gift from a friend at a sewing retreat. I don't know much about this, but I know it works lovely. I will tell you, all the words are starting to come off because I've used it so much. But for the water-soluble markers, I love the Clover ones. This one is a new type of Clover pen, and it's kind of cool because it has two things in one. It has, this side is a pen, not just a marker, like it's a fine tip marker for your marking. And then on this side, it's the eraser pen, which is just like a water solution. So I can show you really quick as an example. I'll do it on the wrong side of the fabric so you can see it. I'm going to make this line. I'm just going to scratch some blue line on here. You can see that. When I take this other side, I can erase those marks. This is the eraser side. Do you see how it's just going away? All this is just water. Like, if I take this and scratch it here, it might be something else, but it's just moisture. And then I spritz it with some Best Press. And then apply some heat. That's it. That's it. So this is Clover. Barb Olson wants to know, what is the outside fabric called? Both of the pieces of fabric are from the Adele and Spring line by Sandy Gervais. Turned out great. Thank you. Let's see if there are any other questions. Super cute. Loved it. Super cute. Beautiful little bag. Wow is right. Very cute. Love this bag. Beautiful. I love the fabric. Becca, that is cute. Thank you, Donna. You guys make sure to check out Handmade by Ying. She's got a YouTube channel as well. And if you could plop her channel link in the chat, that would be appreciated. Me too. I can't sew a whole bag on a machine and hand stitch the lining. All the things are going in there and it will never be seen. I agree. All right. I think I got all of the questions. So Terry says, wow, good. I wrote it down. I will look for it. Yes. Awesome. Becca, why don't you use heat pens? Friction pens. Let's talk about friction pens for a moment. Where did they go? I know I have them somewhere. Just give me 1 second. I thought I had them. No? Label Maker, Swag, friction pens, friction pens. I had a whole stack of them back here, a whole collection for a video that I wanted to do. And I quite honestly don't know where I set them. So let me see if I've got one in my little, here's a marker. This will work. Okay. This, what you're referring to is a friction pen. The idea with friction pens, give you the overhead shot. The idea with friction pens is you can draw on any surface, fabric, paper, whatever, and when you apply friction, better done on paper, when you apply friction, the mark goes away. But I'm not zoomed in. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to zoom you way in so you can see. I'm going to show you right here. In the circle, watch what happens. Just scratching some friction. And now I am applying some friction to erase this. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but those marks are not completely gone. Yeah, you can tell. They're not completely gone. Now you might be saying, oh, but you didn't apply heat. Okay. They appear gone because the iron applied more heat to the paper than my silly scratching could apply. This is a really bad example. I can't show it to you, but I promise you, you can see it here and you can kind of see it here. The chemicals for this are still on the paper. And if this paper got cold enough, those marks will come back. Now, this is a controversial subject because I have heard, and I have never tested, but I trust that you guys are right. I have heard that these markers, if you take the fabric and you put it in the wash, the chemicals from this pen come completely off the fabric and you'll never have to worry about that again. In my experience, I have used these, I have applied them to the right side of the fabric, and it has permanently damaged the print on my fabric. I have also heard stories, I will say this is hearsay, I don't know if this is true, so do your own research. I have heard stories that Pilot, which is who I think makes the friction pens, yep, Pilot, has come out saying that these are not a sewing notion, they are an office supply. But because the ease with how the marks get removed, because you just apply the heat and they're gone, quilters love them. Personally, I don't use them because I had an experience where a friction pen distorted and permanently damaged my project. So that turned me off of them. I feel like it is much better and much safer to grab a marking tool that was designed to go on fabric. That said, there are no rules in the sewing, there are no rules in your sewing room other than what you have. So if you love friction pens, you love friction markers, then use them. My only advice is that you test them on your project before you apply it to the right side of your fabric. If you're going to use this to mark the wrong side of the fabric, please feel free. Don't use it to mark the right side of your fabric till you know what you're getting into. What's up? Tape. I don't know where it is. More tape. I don't know where it is, Zoe. Did you look for it? I don't know what it is. Well, I don't have tape. Okay. Wait. Here, you can use this tape. There you go. I had some washi tape. They didn't see you. So anyway, that's my point. I will only use a friction pen on the wrong side of on fabric. I will not use it on the right side of the fabric. But you do what works for you. Just know what you're getting into. Test your products, test your notions, test your fabric, see for yourself. I feel like that is my biggest advice in all walks, forms, ways of life. Make your own decision. Try things for yourself and adopt what works for you, and what doesn't work for you, don't do it. And don't let anybody tell you that you're doing it wrong. So, anywho, It is 9:50 and we have not shared what you guys have been working on tonight. And that's one of my favorite things, is to see what you've been doing while I've been sitting here blabbering away. So we're going to switch over to the Sew and Tell setup. And we're going to go through Facebook. So if you haven't posted any pictures of what you've been working on tonight, now is a great time to do that. Excuse me. Give me a moment to get all the technology set the right way so I can see the comments and the inspiration. By the way, the bag that we just did, I will be in the next little bit. I can't tell you when it's going to come, but this is one of the patterns that I will put on my website. And now there's a live stream video tutorial walking you through the entire thing step by step. So that's coming. I think it'll probably be a free pattern though, because I just gave you all the cutting instructions. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? I said, hello, why are you not working? My 4 not working. Ah, there we go. I see now. All right, moving on. Denise Hale, she said she's almost done. She just needs one more block. That's gorgeous. I love the wreath look. Joy Lynn Jackson says, my cat quilt made for a very special girl was mailed to Georgia today. Felice Waters tried out a disappearing 9-patch pattern. Very pretty. Oh, by the way, we have a couple of requests. Looks like somebody else got them, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to go back down here. We're going to change to new posts so we see the most recent thing first. Lucy Solinero, oh my gosh, I just finished this today. That's gorgeous. That's a great use of a panel. Oh my goodness, look, there are dolphins in the lower left-hand corner. I love marine life. Like, I love marine life. Dolphins. We saw this from Denise. We saw this from Joy. We saw this from Felice. This is from Tara Lee, my apothecary handbag by Sincerely Jen. I just love it too much. I made it my everything bag now, and I will be making this again. I have been hearing about those Sincerely Jen patterns, and I can't wait to give them a shot. I also love the So Sweetness and the Swoon bag patterns. Those are great. And I'm really loving a lot of the makes that I see on Lauren Mormino and Okla Roots. So, quilt for the So Yeah Alaska Quilt Drive, finished and sent. I need to get mine off in the mail. I'm such a bad person. They need to get mailed out. Karen Bray, here's what I have been making a lot of lately. Absolutely love making bags. That's really pretty. Gail Merrifield, missed the live Tuesday night, but I got my 7A and 7B blocks done last night. Small So Sweet, buttermilk. Super pretty. I like the colors. Karen Cox, binding to do on my twin girl quilts. Kathy Cantu, working on Sarah Lawson's Super Bloom tote bag. I can't tell you how many bags I've made for my daughter. I think bag making is a skill all into itself. Aw, Gina Cole says, I'm trying to finish this tonight. Only 2 rounds to go. I started this blanket on April 11th after watching Becca learn to crochet. I hadn't touched my crochet hooks in several years. Aw. I like the blue. Love that color. And the kitty cat's cute too. Natalie Hartman, Friday nights are for stitching. Me, the crickets, and the mosquito lamp, and until a kid interrupts or I run out of daylight. Working on getting the reproduction sampler done. Happy Friday, peeps. Happy Friday, Natalie. Cheryl Saxon, the Zach box quilt from So Yeah finishes better than perfect. It was a learning experience for me. It's gorgeous. Nicely done. I've got all of my blocks made. I do not have my sashing. And I don't have my quilt put together either, but I love it. And your points look pretty dang good. Peggy Stivers, all 136 stars are officially sewn in place, as are the borders. Its current unfinished size is 70 inches by 70 inches. Brenda Foley, by the way, about those friction pens, says she is tested on a dark blue and it bleached it out. Glad I tested it. That's what I found. I don't remember the color of fabric that I had, but I do remember it was a dark color and the friction pen bleached out some of the color right around where it was. And their washing didn't fix that. Peggy Stivers, I am actually back on my quilt after making the thread shelf and the last 2 little projects for my thread shelf. I am loving a place for those scissors and thread bits. I thought it might be awkward, but it really isn't. That's cool. Lori said the Alaska quilt deadline is Monday, but they definitely need to be received by Wednesday the 17th. I'm appreciative of that. I will try to get those out in the mail Monday and do an overnight shipment out to Vegas. Your quilt is in there too, Lori. It's been a summer. Paula Weedine, quilting this tonight. Good thing baby boy came today. Oh, congratulations. Jamie Myers finished quilting and making the binding now. I love that. That's Love Note from Lala Boutique, and it's a gorgeous quilt. Who did the quilting? That's really pretty. Katie Vaught, back to this again. I have to have it finished for my nephew to use in his dorm next weekend. Top is finally finished, though. Oh my goodness. Sewing a Rogue Life, still working on the Zach box. Yeah, I hear ya. I still gotta get mine done. Donna Forrest, this, that, and another. Here's, I guess, a label. Or is that embroidery? Probably a label. Oh, that's pretty. I think I know what that is. Is that block number 1 for the designer mystery quilt from Fat Quarter Shop? Oh, you've got so many pictures in here. So many different things that you've been working on. I think we saw this one last time. That's very pretty. Are you embroidering that bag? I know what those are. You made me one. I have one. Oh, yep. See, my bag's in there somewhere. Oh, geez. Georgia McCroy finishing the last of 32 stockings for my family. Goodness, that's a lot of stockings, and I need to make some more. Jamie Priest, thanks for keeping me company. Look, she made a vinyl bag. That's a great idea. I've done the vinyl bags where the vinyl goes around the side, but having it so that it comes up to the zippers, kind of better, because now you don't have to deal with the bulk of the vinyl being in the seam. That's neat. I like that idea. That's a cool design. Back to that panel. We saw that. Let me refresh the screen. Only color I have had a problem with yet is the dark blue with a friction print. I wouldn't be surprised if my color was dark blue, but it's been like 6 years ago that happened. Angel Moss started the spooky sampler quilt while watching Becca. Now I have 2 quilts to finish before Halloween. We saw these. We'll refresh one more time. And that is it. Ah, it's an embroidered dish towel and then the challenge from Cotton Cuts. That's awesome, Donna. All right, guys. It is about that time to break forth the rhythm in the wine. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even know the song. Like, that's the only line that about that time to break forth the rhythm and the rhyme. That's what it is. Yeah, whatever. I need to get out more, or maybe less. Whatever works for you. But it is 10 o'clock. I have been live for a couple hours, so you know what that means. It's time to end the live stream. I'm going to do one quick thing before we go, so hang tight for a moment. We're going to see whose party we can crash on the YouTubes. Who's live tonight? Is Beth live? Nope, she is not. Okay. I was going to see if she was live. I could dump everybody over there, but I don't see anyone else live, so I have no one to refer you to. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, friends. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the video for Bliss block number 2 drops, and next week we will be live with the one and only Tiffany from Tiffany's Quilting Life. We'll just have a little quilty chat and a little UFO project. So, Sunday you got Tiff and Teresa. Monday you got Ian. Tomorrow you got me at 9 a.m. And the guy who sews, I think, at 8 a.m. That's it. I am prolonging the goodbye, so we're just going to rip the Band-Aid. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here because the live's ending. I'll see you all next week. Bye!